everybody, welcome to JCLive. I am your host, Mr. Kurt Ristroff, Publications Chair for the National Junior Classical League, an organization of middle and high school students in classical courses. How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome to the show. Happy Monday. Happy to have everybody here. We're going to bring on some very special guests. Today's guests are the triumvirate of consuls from the Boston Latin School Junior Classical League. They're going to, and one of their sponsors will also be joining us to talk about what it's like to run a really world-class chapter of the JCL, the kind of events they run, what a typical school year looks like for them, and their plans for this year. So we're really going to be highlighting one of the awesome chapters that we have here in JCL. Let me see, I have not. Just going to move the chat over on my screen so that I can see anybody's comments. Let's see. Okay. Welcome to the show. Like always, we're going to start with some JCL announcements. We'll bring on a pair of national officers to talk about what they've been up to, and then we will have our featured guests come on very shortly. So, okay. Got some announcements for y'all, as always. Number one, join JCL. Say it every time. Join JCL. I think everybody in the chat is probably already familiar with JCL, so when I'm going through this slide, you should be thinking to yourself, who do I know who could join JCL, who I could get to join JCL? So if there's anybody at your school, maybe somebody in Latin 1 or Latin 1/2 or something like that, who is interested in JCL but is on the fence about becoming a member, encourage them to join. If you know somebody at another school, a school, particularly if there's a school that has Latin but no JCL, encourage them to start a chapter too. It's an awesome experience. Everybody enjoys JCL. It's a really good time. And if you need any help joining, starting a club, anything like that, let us know. We will help you out. And I'm going to read this quote in full. We recently announced in our monthly Knowns Notes, which is a publication that goes out to all JCL sponsors, and one person from Florida who's a student officer who asked me to email them individually to them every month. We make a series of announcements for sponsors and that one Florida person. And in this month's, which went out a couple of days ago, we included the note that every month we will randomly pick at least one sponsor to be gifted with our incredibly snazzy JCL swag. Once you've registered your chapter, you're eligible each month for snazzy, snaztastic swag. Don't be left out in our snazzy sponsor celebration and register your chapter today. And if any of you have ever been to National Convention, you can probably guess who wrote that. So that's one of the things that we're doing this year that's new. If you register if your teacher registers your chapter, there's a chance that you can win things like a JCL magnet, JCL stickers, JCL pens, pencils, water bottles, name tags, all kinds of things. So go ahead and register your chapter. Encourage your teacher to get that paperwork in, and you could be a winner. Other announcements. If you are interested in submitting an op-ed, a story, like a short story or a poem or an article, anything, any sort of creative content to the Torch US, which is NJCL's quarterly magazine, you can go ahead and email that to NJCL editor Irene Calderon by October 23rd, which is coming up. If you've been in JCL for a while and you've got a good JCL memory to share, we are trying to collect a book of JCL memories, or we're trying to collect enough JCL memories to put them into a book. I would love to hear about your favorite moment in JCL ever in your entire life. So you can go ahead and submit that, and encourage anybody else you know who's got a great story like that to submit that using one of the links in the description. Also, I'm thinking of setting a deadline and saying like, oh, everyone who submits by December 15th or some arbitrary date will be entered to win some kind of prize, because I want to encourage more submissions. So keep an eye out for that. This is the right place to check. Okay. Let's see. Next, it's October. If you're unfamiliar, JCL runs a Club of the Month contest every month. October's theme is to go outdoors and do something fun. If you're virtual, you can do something like volunteer to rake leaves or collect litter, something that you can do socially distanced. Does that work? Yeah, that's the adverb way of saying that. That's our theme for October. You can check that out if you're interested. You don't have to follow the theme very closely to submit to Club of the Month, so there's more information about that, again, in the description. Okay, there's live Kardaman coming to JCLive, coming to this YouTube channel, starting in just a couple of weeks. The first Thursday of every month, starting next month, we will have a showcase match. That'll be a lot of fun. Let your friends know, and if you're interested in signing up, then you can let me know or contact Ms. Jenny Luongo, who is the NJCL Kardaman chair at kardaman@njcl.org. That's going to be fun. Okay. This is a big one. Massachusetts is having its Classics Day coming up on October 24th. This is a huge event. They've got just tons of events going on, from fun social things to colloquia to 4 really outstanding guest speakers. There's information about it all over Instagram and any of the Massachusetts this obviously the state account, but then also a lot of the local chapter accounts have been sharing this info. They asked me to share some here. So sign up for the Mass JCL Classics Day. Anybody can sign up. You need to sign up though by the 15th, by October 15th, which is this week. So go ahead and sign up now. It's going to be a really awesome day. I'll be there. A bunch of other people will be there. Check it out. That one's going to be awesome. Okay, ETC, Excellence Through Classics, is another standing committee of the American Classical League, which is JCL's parent organization, and they are also going to have live content a couple times a month, starting this week. On Wednesday this week, they're doing a teaser session. It's going to be free. All the other ones you have to pay for if you're an ACL member, which your sponsor has to be in order to be a JCL sponsor. You get a discount. And this week's is going to be about the Cursus Honorum. Both of the sessions in October are going to be about political elections in ancient Rome, and they're going to go from there. So if you're interested in some of that really cool classics content, you can check out the ETC live webinars, and there's a link for that in the description. Last thing, as always, like and subscribe. Encourage your friends to subscribe. We're slowly eking up towards our 1,000 subscriber goal, at which point we'll do a JCL merchandise raffle. It's going to be great. And next week we'll be back to officer interviews. We'll be bringing on NJCL parliamentarian Annie Class, who will talk to us about her life and being a parliamentarian and all that. In fact, she's going to come on right now and give an officer update. So we're going to transition over to that real quick. Let's see. Okay, Annie and Vivian, can you hear me? I can't hear you. Can you say something? Oh, it's because I've got the tab muted. All right, now I can hear you. Okay, welcome to the show. You swapped places. Annie Class, NJCL parliamentarian, and Vivian Wu, NJCL historian, are going to be giving our brief officer updates for the week. What have you got for us? Annie, you go first.
Okay, so I guess I just want to talk about constitutional amendments because Mr. Compton and I did have our meeting, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, on the first set of amendments to the first 4 articles that we're working on. Those were name, object, members, and parliamentary authority. So we met, we went over that. Those meetings are basically us just consolidating thoughts on the different amendments before having to present them at fall planning. We're presenting all of our amendments at fall planning. I think this is something that a lot of people don't know about the NJCL parliamentarian, but basically all of the amendments that you want to the Constitution should be given to the National Committee at fall planning. So it's pretty early in the year, and then you kind of critique those specific amendments throughout the year. And then if you have things that you want to add, you basically do that until March. So that's kind of the process behind the amendments at the national level. The next 3 articles that we're working on are the officers article, the meetings article, and the executive board article. We're moving a couple things around, but those amendments are due for me on October 14th. So that's in 2 days to Mr. Compton. And we will be having a meeting, just as we did with the first 4 articles, on those. And then after that, I will be basically working on the next set and then the next set until fall planning comes around in late October. The next thing is the youth parliamentarian course. This is something that I've been working on for a while, and I've had to continuously change some of the formatting. I do have the first module finished. I'm just working right now on the notes packet and the worksheets and making sure that those are designed correctly, but we should be having 2 modules come out in the month of October to make up for one not coming out in September. So keep an eye out on that for the next time that I do the updates. I will give like a tour of where you can find the resources and the different things that you can do with those, as well as explaining just kind of what that course is all about. And then the next thing is just talking about some specific things for me for fall planning for anyone who's interested in running for national office or national parley specifically. Fall planning is really interesting for national parley because we have to worry about the election process for the next year. So we're already kind of thinking about that. And one of the things that I thought that I'd share is that the national parliamentarian actually has to work with the groundskeeper of the university that we're going to. And this is something I didn't know going into the office. And I think it's kind of interesting because you don't really think about that when you're running for office. But you do have to kind of talk with the groundskeeper, basically say, where can election materials go, and where they can be set up. So I thought that was kind of a little fun tidbit. And then for me, on a more personal level, I am finishing up my Magistra Parliamentarian exam this week. I'm doing parts 4 and 5 this week. So I'll be able to have that certification by the end of the week, which is really, really cool. And of course, if you have any questions about the National Association of Parliamentarians or the RP exam, you can always email me. It's definitely something that I encourage local and state parliamentarians to become involved in, just because it is really, really great for educating, especially young people, students, on the basics of parliamentary procedure. And then obviously you can get more complicated with it as you get to the more advanced levels in the organization. But if you have any questions about that, please feel free to email me, or really anything that I said today.
Good luck, Annie. Thank you very much. Good luck on your exams. We'll talk all about this in much more detail next week. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Vivian, how's it going?
Hi. Everything's pretty good. So since my last report, I've been hard at work. I judged the Photo of the Month contest and have recently posted the winners for September on Facebook and Instagram. Don't forget to submit for October. I would like to re-emphasize that photos of people breaking social distancing rules will not be considered. But as always, screenshots of Zoom calls and any socially distanced mask-wearing activities are always welcome. Next, which I personally think is very exciting, I will be introducing the drum roll, please.
Actually, that probably really comes over poorly on my mic. I apologize for that.
Here, hold on, where is it? Here we go. Can you see this?
Oh, hang on. There we go. And I
the
have to switch
video
your names again.
Of the month contest. So this is a new contest and it won't be open until November. So how to submit. When the contest opens, it will be on the NJCL website under non-convention contests. Starting from the NJCL homepage, click on non-convention contests under the students tab. From there, you'll scroll down, find video of the month contest, and you'll find the submission link down there.
Cool.
So here are some details of the contest. There will be a limit for video submissions. The max length will be 1 minute and each chapter only gets 1 submission. Similar to the Photo of the Month contest, the videos will be judged on how well it showcases JCL spirit and activities. All submissions must be in MP4 or MOV format, or else it will be disqualified. Before you submit, please be sure that all participants in the videos have consented to it being submitted and the possibility of it being in the video scrapbook at the end of the year. Finally, all submissions must be in by midnight Eastern of the last day of each month, and winners will be showcased in the video scrapbook at the end of the year. Some frequently asked questions. Can these videos be TikToks? Yes, as long as it is related to JCL and is made or recorded by the person submitting it. Will length be a factor in the chances of winning? Not as long as it falls under the 1 minute time limit. Again, if it is over a minute, it will be disqualified. Can I submit screen recordings of Zooms? Yes, all video types are welcome as long as they are appropriate. So yeah, that's the video of the month contest.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. This, folks, is how you get, and you switch places again in the Google thing. This is how you can get your TikToks into a national JCL contest, because we the social media contest currently, we made it to Snapchat, but we haven't quite made it to TikTok yet. That might change this year, but we'll see. But you can do both. I mean, if we do end up allowing TikTok in the social media contest, then you'll be able to submit these videos both to this contest and TikTok and the social media contest. Well, thanks so much to our reporters. I'll see y'all later. Feel free to jump in the chat, and Annie will see you next week, and Vivian will see you in about a month for another one of these updates.
Thank you, Mr. Ostroff.
Absolutely. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, and y'all saw just a teaser of the BLS JCL officers a second ago. I apologize for the misclick, but it seems to have built the hype. So what I'm going to do is now I will bring on our special guests. Please welcome to the stream the triumvirate of Boston Latin School JCL and one of their sponsors, Magistra Moguel. One second. Need to change the screen, and we are here. So, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to the stream.
Thank you for having us.
Hello.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody, y'all can see me, y'all can hear me, everything. I just moved a bunch of things around on my computer, so I've got to get the chat back up. The chat's very excited. Okay. Well, welcome to the show. I'd like to start. Could you each introduce yourselves? Tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got to where you are, and then we'll go from there. This is supposed to be nice and conversational, so I've got a couple of questions prepared, but mostly it'll just be a nice chat. So Danny, why don't you go first?
All right. I'm Danny Nguyen. I'm a current senior at Boston Latin, and I first joined the club in 7th grade from, I think it was like first term, and Miss Moguel, my Latin teacher, introduced it to us, and I've been in it ever since.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on. Ethan, how about you go next?
My name is Ethan Clark. I'm also a senior at Boston Latin, and I got started with, in JCL with Kardaman in 9th grade. Shout out to Mr. Howard for introducing me to that, but I haven't looked back since, and it's been awesome.
Ethan, everybody in the chat is telling you to stand up. Is that an inside joke that I don't get?
I'm not sure, but I'm gonna remain seated for now.
Okay, I think you're well framed in the camera, so that's good. Sanjana, how about you?
Okay, I'm a junior at BLS. I started in JCL in 7th grade from Miss Mogel's class, similar to Danny. And I did publicity on the board for a couple years, and now I'm here.
All right. And Magistra Moguel, could you introduce yourself briefly for us also?
Sure. I'm Miss Moguel. I teach 7th grade Latin at Boston Latin School, and this is my 10th year doing that, and my 10th year working with JCL and Kardaman.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much to all four of you for coming on the show. I'm really excited. Y'all have one of the largest and most successful JCLs there is. And one of the things that we wanted to do with this show was give folks a chance to learn more about local chapters from all over the country. So we've got viewers from Florida, viewers from the West Coast, viewers from, I think there are some folks from Indiana in the chat. So I'll give a little bit of background. And the background that I know is that I know very little about BLS, and I know even less about BLS JCL. So what I know is that over the years of attending national convention for JCL, which I've done for about 10 years now, I've heard the name of your school a lot, usually under the context of winning something. And be it publicity or Kardaman or academic tests or overall sweepstakes or things like this. So for the, I'll say the general convention goer, the general JCL, I would say that BLS is a household name, and that's what I put in the social media advertisement for the show. Was we're going to be talking to a household name club, which is this powerhouse that is BLS. So, can you all tell me a little bit about the school and a little bit about the club in particular, just for people who have no familiarity, who are not from Massachusetts, who don't know anything about BLS other than that y'all win a bunch of stuff?
Yeah, I can get started. So, Boston Latin School is one of, I think, the oldest public school in America, founded in like 1635. So it has a long-lasting tradition. And our JCL got started many years ago, but one of the, I guess, founding figures was Miss Housey, who's now retired, but she transferred to Boston Latin several years ago, and she created this culture of just wanting to be successful and to always put 100% effort in whatever contest we participated in, whether it was Ludi or academic testing or Kardaman, and that led to our first state championship trophy in 2014. I wasn't a part of that. I joined in 2015, but I remember being told stories about that, and since then we just haven't looked back.
Awesome. Now I've got, for those of you who don't know, I'm a graduate student at Princeton, and I was all proud of myself because I have a pair of Princeton sweatpants that says 1756 on them. And I'm like, oh, my school is so old, it's older than America. When did you say Boston Latin School started?
1635. Yeah.
1635. Good night. Well, that's incredible. And I did look y'all up on Wikipedia, and Wikipedia says, yes, indeed, the oldest school in America, certainly the oldest in the U.S. And it's a school, I've been to Boston, so I've got a little bit of familiarity with the Boston landscape. It's, let's see, there's the Charles River, right? There's like Cambridge, and then there's the Charles, and y'all are south of the Charles, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And how many people attend the school? What grades? Those kinds of things.
I can talk about this. It's a pretty big school. I think there's about 2,400 kids around that. It's grades 7 through 12. And we're required to take Latin from 7 to 10, but a lot of people continue to take Latin in 11th and 12th grade.
Okay, so you've got 2,400 kids, and you've got to take Latin from 7 to 10. That lends itself to a very large, very active JCL for sure. How does that work? Does everybody join JCL? Is it an option? Is it a requirement? How does that look?
It's not really a requirement, but I think a lot of kids do join just because you're already taking Latin, and we have really great 7th grade teachers like Miss Moguel who encourage students to join, and it also just helps with their Latin career a lot. So I think just the BLS environment encourages a lot of students to join, and we do our best as a club to publicize a lot too. So yeah.
Gotcha. So how many folks do you have in a typical year in the chapter?
In a typical year, we usually have around 300, 400, depending, and a lot of those are joining either middle schoolers who are really excited about all the events that we do locally and statewide, or we get a lot of upperclassmen who are trying to get on the National Latin Honor Society, truthfully.
Okay. I mean, this is 300 to 400. I was in, one of the more active chapters in Louisiana, and my senior year, when we had the most, we were at 50, and we were stoked that we had 50 kids. So a 400 person chapter, that is incredible. And the three of you, Danny, Ethan, and Sanjana, y'all are at the head of that, right? You're all co-consuls, is that right?
Yep.
And I'd imagine that it takes an awful lot of logistical organization and delegation and all these wonderful leadership skills that people develop in JCL to move such a large machine that is the chapter. So can y'all talk a little bit about how you three have developed as leaders and what you do on a day-to-day basis to help run this colossal organization?
Yeah, so our main priorities, we always want to work with the sponsors and communicate with them to create events that our members would be interested in, but also we also have to mention our amazing board who are also just as dedicated, such as our head of publicity and our webmaster, as well as our historians and many more down the line. But I think one of the main traits that we have to utilize is communication, because without it we wouldn't be as successful as we are.
So on your website, your club website says you have about 20 officer positions, is that right?
Yeah, our board is pretty large.
So does each of the three of you oversee 6 other officers, and that's how it sort of shakes out, or what does that look like day to day?
We kind of do it by committee. I mean, we're lucky to have such a great board. They do so much, and we wouldn't be able to do anything without them. But I mean, we have board meetings virtually now because of COVID. But we have board meetings. We try to have them once a month, where all the board members just debrief, talk about the work they've been doing and what they need to get done. So that's how we communicate with all of them.
Okay. And then people see each other in class. I'm sure that helps. You can remind, oh, we've got a JCL meeting today. Well, how often do you have meetings of the whole club?
We have them like around once a month usually. Try to at least. Yeah, it also depends on like what events are coming up. So if we have something that we think we need to talk about, then we'll communicate more during that time, things like that.
Okay. And y'all don't have a 400-person classroom, I imagine. Or maybe you do. Where do you have these colossal club meetings?
Our main go-tos are the auditorium or the cafeteria.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man. That's so cool. I'm geeking out about the idea of having such a large chapter. That's really cool. So one of the things that I personally really loved about JCL was when I was in it was that the officers at my school at least did a really good job of making sure that none of the kids who joined, like none of the 8th or 9th graders, which was the youngest that we had, got lost. Nobody got left behind. Like everybody had a chance. There was always an officer going over to them and saying like, hey, what are you excited about? Like, do you want to do graphic arts? Do you want to take some tests? That's fun. So with so many like younger students, how do y'all make sure that nobody gets sort of lost, that everybody feels like they've got a place in the chapter?
I mean, we're really fortunate to have a lot of younger kids who are very passionate, and we have sponsors like Miss Moguel who teach 7th grade, which is the youngest grade, and so she does a really great job along with all the other teachers with getting kids engaged. And so I think that I would hope that most of the younger members feel at home. I think we try and be as inclusive as possible of 7th, 8th, and 9th graders.
That's awesome. And let's see. So you've got these big club meetings about once a month. You've got officer meetings, you said, also about once a month, right? And talk about what needs to get done. Before we get away from the officers, because it sounds like you have a really amazing core of very dedicated officers. I don't want to pass over them. Could you tell us a little bit about what the officer positions are? You mentioned webmaster, historian, publicity officer. What do all of these do, and what other offices are we missing?
Oh gosh, there's a lot of them. There's treasurer, so they do like our finances and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's parliamentarian for when we have elections. We have officers at large which is kind of a cool position for younger students, especially who are like just trying to get involved in like JCL leadership. So a lot of like 8th graders, 9th graders will sign up for that, and that position basically helps out with a lot of different positions so that they can kind of scope out the different parts of the board and figure out what they might want to do in the future, like the next year and things like that. And
Community service and spirit.
Community service and spirit, yeah. So we do a lot of community service events, so we have a really great CSSC for that. And I think we have a secretary for board meetings. That might be it.
There's also publications. We have.
Oh,
I was going to say, every year I read the Pause Romana as part of the local publications contest. Love reading it. You get a... Now I think I understand how y'all are able to get submissions, student submissions to the newsletter. That's the hardest part for those of you who have never written a JCL publication. The hardest part of writing a JCL publication is getting people to send you stuff. And when you've got 300 people, even if you only have 1% sending you stuff, that's still, hey, that's 3 articles. That's great. So you mentioned the community service, and that's something that I wanted to... That's a great pivot. Let's talk about that, because I went on the website and then the archived websites from previous years and looked up like events, because I was planning to ask, what are the typical events that you do in a year? And then it's so many events that's a hard question, because you'd be here for 10 minutes just listing them all. So let's break them up. And the first category I want to talk about is community service, because that's the one that struck me as the most plentiful. Like it seemed like every other week almost there was some kind of community service event that y'all do, and I wanted to ask, how is that something that you have events that you do every year, or are you constantly finding new events, or are some of these traditional events that you always do, like, oh, in September we always do this and this, or how does that shake out, and what is it like to run such a service-oriented club?
Yeah, so one of the main things we always do each year, it's not coming back this year because of COVID, but it's the Yankee Candle organization. So what we do with that is we promote it to our delegates, and they can decide whether or not they want to go out and sell these candles. And then we also take that opportunity to host an event out of the fundraiser, and that way it makes it a bit more inclusive, and another event is always a good idea. But also, because of COVID this year, we want to have just as many events. So our community service organizer, Luisa, she's been working very hard to look for virtual ways to also gain hours. So she's found many events such as Room to Grow and virtual book drives. And Room to Grow is basically like where we just donate money to help low income parents and whatnot to learn about their situations.
Okay.
Yeah, I think also there's some events that we've been doing this year. At least I think we did one where it was in person, actually, with like face masks and PPE and everything. Might have been like a food shelter or something like that. So we've been experimenting with that, but I think it's also just like a huge testament to our community service coordinator, Louisa, as Danny mentioned. She's been doing a really great job, and every year we have really good CSSCs who find lots of unique opportunities, and also some that are online. We've done like letters. A lot of like the ones that we do every year are letters to soldiers, or I think we might do to like a nursing home or something like that. But yeah, so we have some events that we do every year and some events that we find new ones every year.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was thinking about that. It's an interesting point about how to do service projects during COVID. And we're going to, Nolan Heinrich in the chat asked, what are y'all doing with COVID this year? And we're certainly going to get to that. But something I was falling asleep the other day, and I had one of those falling asleep thoughts. And my falling asleep thought was, oh my God, you could do an in-person service event. You could do a car wash, because everybody stays in their car and you're basically washing your hands the whole time because you're with soap, right? You're like washing someone's car, and it could be like a service event, or it could be a fundraiser, like however you choose to run it. But I thought, wow, you have one person on one side of the car and one person on the other side of the car, and it's kind of they're distanced enough, and there's a car between them, and you can wear a mask and you're washing your hands the whole time. Amazing. So feel free to use that. I don't know logistically if that would work out at all, but it was just a thought that I had that I figured I'd share. As far as service projects are concerned. So how many service events do you do in a year? Is it roughly 1 or 2 a month?
I would say about 1 a month. Service events are more fluid. It usually depends on opportunities, right? So every year, like it changes year by year, and we'll see how that works out with COVID, but we've already had a couple already, and so we're hoping to keep that pacing up.
Awesome.
Yeah, usually the officers aim for, I think, 2 a month, and if they can find more, they'll advertise them. BLS has a community service requirement for graduation,
Okay.
so that helps motivate people. But I know the club officers also have their own requirement. When you're running for office, it helps that you've done some community service with BLS JCL, and then you're required to do a certain number of community service hours with the club once you become an officer.
Okay.
So
What's the graduation requirement?
100 hours, I believe, 50 in school and 50 out of school.
Awesome. Wow. Okay. Well, that explains some of the motivation behind it. That's wonderful. We had something similar when I was in high school, and then clubs that put on service projects in which more than 50% of the club participated got to give a special award. They qualified to be, this higher tier of club. It was a serious club if it did a big service project. So y'all would absolutely go above and beyond that kind of requirement. That's awesome. So in addition to, so you've got now 1 officer meeting and 1 club meeting and 1 to 2 service projects a month, plus then other JCL events, right? So I know y'all run a Kardaman tournament every year, right? And there are, I'm sure, many other JCL events that you run throughout the year. What are some of those? Sort of, if you could take me through what a typical year looks like, not a COVID year, but like some of the other years that y'all have been in the club, presumably classes start in August or September, and then what does the year look like as it progresses chronologically, like event-wise?
I think generally it's 1 a month for just seasonal, I don't really know how to describe it, events. Like we have a Saturnalia in December, and then that, and then we have mass JCL events that we go to. So there's states in the spring, and there's Classics Day, which is coming up very soon, and everyone should go because it's actually open to non-mass JCL people.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna go. We talked about that at the beginning. Folks, remember to sign up by October 15th. The link is in the description. Mass JCL Classics Day. It's only $6 for out of Massachusetts people. It's absolutely worth it. A whole day of classic stuff. I'm sorry, Sanjana, I just had to give that plug.
No, yeah, I think they have some really cool speakers coming.
Oh yeah. So you said a Saturnalia in December. What is that? Is it a party? How do you do? I know what Saturnalia is, but what is your event?
Yeah, I think it depends every year what the publicity team and the event planning people are trying to do. But I think last year we had some food, and we had some cookie decorating. We have some games, some Roman games, some classically inspired video games, things like that. Yeah.
What are the classically inspired video games?
I think that was all that we had. We also do Kardaman and stuff during that event.
Okay. Is that an evening event where everybody comes out after school and has some food, or is it at after school just on an afternoon?
It's usually after school, just a couple hours.
Gotcha. Okay. Is that So that's your December-ish event. Do you have a big kickoff event for the beginning of the year, or something in coordination with like a fall sport or something like that?
Not really with sports, I don't think, but we have like
For Tomlin stuff for sure.
Oh yeah, okay.
There's a bunch of scrimmages for novices to get them into Kardaman. And then around October, we usually have an armilistrium event. Tubalistrium? I can't remember which is which. One of them in the fall, one in the spring. Armilistrium. Okay, thank you. And that's usually tied into the Yankee Candle fundraiser. So we're placing down our arms and kicking off our fundraiser.
I see.
There's a Mercalia event in February, which is similar to the Saturnalia in terms of like activities and things. It's just more Valentine's Day themed. And then we have Tubalistrium right before state convention to get people revved up and pepped for that. And we practice spirit and things.
Cool. Okay. So about one event a month that's not a service event, and then there's Kardaman going on the whole time too. Gotcha. Yeah, let's talk about. Well, Ethan, you had unmuted your mic. Were you going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to add on about armilistrium, but Miss Moguel touched on that, so I'm all set.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Then let's talk a little bit about Kardaman, because obviously BLS is a big Kardaman powerhouse also, and I've talked to some folks who are from like very serious Kardaman schools, but not really about Kardaman, and I'd imagine a lot of the viewers who aren't as familiar with the competitive Kardaman scene may have some questions about how this works, because like I know I keep going back to when I was in JCL, but that's what I know, because I'm coming from a medium-sized state and a decent-sized chapter. But when I was in high school, recruiting for Kardaman consisted of the night before state convention saying, okay, we have 5 Latin 2s going to state convention. You're all on the Kardaman team. You have to go to Kardaman matches, and sort of twisting people's arms to get them to go play Kardaman. And we'd sometimes practice, and it, you know, and I've been Louisiana's Kardaman coordinator since 2013. So now I write their questions and I run their tournament at state convention, and our questions are more NLE style. I'll say they're a little bit simpler questions than what you can get at the national tournament, for example, at NJCL convention, where what we're going for at Louisiana is more like people who haven't really studied very much for Kardaman, are in it for the first time. Even if they're Latin 2 or Latin 3 or something, they hear a question and they think like, oh, I learned that, I heard that in class, and they buzz in and they maybe get it right, or maybe the other team gets it first. But usually it's pretty high scoring rounds because the questions are a little bit easier. This is completely different, I imagine, from how the like really serious competitive Kardaman scene is, where I know there's a lot of studying. There's it's probably much more competitive to get on the team. So can you tell us about that? What is how do you choose teams? How do you get people oriented? What does studying for Kardaman look like? All of this.
Yes, so the main recruiting process happens, as Miss Moguel says, in the novice scrimmages at the beginning of the year. So those are more catered to 7th and 8th graders and new 9th graders. Mm-hmm. And each week we have like a weekly topic we're focusing on. So first week it's usually a myth scrimmage on just very foundational myths, so that people who've learned in Latin class about Zeus and the Olympians and the Titans and whatnot should be able to score. And the next week is Roman history, so major figures of the Republic, Empire, and monarchy, etc. And last week is just language, and we split that up into two tournaments. One would be for the level 1/2, so that would mainly be 7th graders, and level 1, which are 8th graders and new 9th graders. And that way we get to look at new students who could be interested in joining Kardaman, and also gauge any talented and I guess like natural players, because every year there's always that one person who just does extremely well despite being new. So after that, we have weekly practices every Thursday after school for about an hour or an hour 30 minutes once you get to the advanced level. And our novice coach is Miss Moguel. Our intermediate coach is Mr. Brownell, who also teaches Greek, and our advanced coach is Mr. Howard. And we have to give them a lot of gratitude and thanks because they're excellent and they organize the practices each week and write questions and trying out for teams. Yes. So there isn't really like a main tryout. It's just the coaches take note of who's doing well each week and who fits well with what team. And that really comes in handy at the major tournaments that we attend, such as Yale in November, Harvard in March, and sometimes Princeton as well. And throughout the year, we have like more bonding activities, and once we have that chemistry built, it gets easier for like states and nationals where things are much more serious.
What kind of bonding activities do y'all do?
Well, now that we're online, we mostly communicate on Discord and have more like little scrimmages here and then.
Mm-hmm.
And like now we're much more acquainted with each other than if like years prior when I was like a novice. So like I knew none of the advanced kids.
Mm-hmm.
But now that we're online, we have more opportunity to just chill out and get to know each other.
We also started a tradition at the Princeton tournament, if you guys know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah. Every year when we go to Princeton, we go down there. We go to an escape room place and just hang out there for an hour or two.
Yeah, is that the one on Route 1? Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so I've helped out with the Princeton Kardaman tournament a couple of times, reading questions mostly, and I'd like to go over and hang out with Mr. Howard because I know him, but now I'll know Miss Moguel too, and that's great. I'm always happy to meet more JCL sponsors, and it's a fun time. I'm gonna segue a little bit and say that we're these big tournaments that are happening. The Harvard and Yale tournaments are well established, and the Princeton one's in its third or fourth year now. They're all going to be online this year, I think, and so we're looking to introduce the opportunity for live streaming of those tournaments if people are interested, and we're going to talk more about that. There's about to be an announcement, so I don't think I'm giving too much away, but like if the tournament organizers are interested in streaming the finals of those tournaments, like you couldn't stream the intermediate rounds because then people could maybe like watch the YouTube of a stream that's going a round that's going faster than theirs and get the questions, and that wouldn't be fair. But like the finals or something like that, if tournament organizers are interested in us, NJCL, streaming those to this channel, then that's something that we can definitely set up this year, and I think it'll be good exposure for everybody involved, because Kardaman is obviously very popular on the channel, and the tournaments are going to be able to have more participants than normal, I think, with being virtual, and so more people, there may be more of an audience for it and all this, so that's something that we're looking into, and I figured I'd say that now, and y'all, of course, as likely successful participants in those tournaments, if you're talking to tournament organizers, if there's some kind of like, oh, the tournament's coming up in a month, let's have a meeting and talk about how it's going to work this year in COVID, and you want to tell them like, oh, hey, are y'all working with NJCL? Are y'all going to stream parts of this tournament? I'd appreciate that, because I'd be very, very happy to work with the organizers of those tournaments to do something like that. And of course, that fits in nicely with the monthly Kardaman streaming we're going to be doing on this channel on Thursdays starting next month. If y'all are interested, of course, y'all would be more than welcome to participate in that. So the teams get chosen, and you can have a couple of teams. Usually, like these regional tournaments, you can have an A team and a B team, or a purple team and a gold team, or something like that. Is that the right terminology?
Yeah, usually we're lucky because so many people are interested in Kardaman, so sometimes, like, I believe at Yale last year we had something like 4 teams at the advanced level, which is crazy.
Wow.
And in each level too. Yeah. So a lot of people are interested. And sometimes like the quote unquote like A team does not mean like everyone there is like on the national team or whatever. Like, yeah, they just like experiment with lineups and stuff, but it's really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, we had, my club wasn't a huge JCL club, but we were a pretty big math club, and we had that, I remember, one year for the math state convention, where we had an A team and a B team, and going into one of the competitions, I was on the A team, and we got blown out by the B team, and at first I was mad, and then I was happy because they made it to the finals, and then they won, and that was fun. So it can be fun to have more than one team per round. It's an interesting idea, looking at moving people around and how are you going to fill those rosters and things. That's another Kardaman related question that I've got for y'all, and then we'll talk more about BLS JCL in general. But I know at some point a common strategy is to say, okay, we've picked our team, now person A is going to specialize in something and person B is going to specialize in something else. Is that something y'all do, and what's the thought process there, and how does that work?
Yeah, there's pretty heavy specialization, even before the teams are chosen. Like, usually within like a month or so of starting Kardaman, like people say, what subject do you do, etc. I think we're trying to move away from that to some extent in the advanced level and try and like broaden our skill set, because it's sometimes bad to just hyper specialize. But yeah, that usually happens like before the teams are selected and all that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely been more common now for our teams to be branching out to different subjects. Like the national team that won novice this year, that team, shout out to them, was very talented in all subjects. Like, even though one kid, I'm gonna shout out Bia considered himself a myth specialist, but he ended up getting language questions as well, and that was very instrumental into their victory. So it's been something that's been more common for us lately, and I think it's going to work in the long run. Gotcha.
And of course, for those of you in the chat, if you're interested in watching the novice finals and watching that team win, that video, well, spoilers, that team wins, but that video is on the NJCL YouTube channel. You can go check it out, and don't forget to like and subscribe. So do all three of y'all play Kardaman? And what are your specialties, if so?
Yes, I've been playing Kardaman since I've been at BLS. And I mainly specialize in myth, but now I'm trying to get into language and literature.
Yeah, I've been playing Kardaman since 9th grade. It's actually a funny story of how I got started. I had a study hall in the room where Kardaman practices took place after school, and I left like a textbook there or something, and so I had to go back and get it before I left, and saw that Kardaman practice was there, and so I just stayed there. And that's how I joined Kardaman. But in terms of subjects, history would be my primary one. But like Danny, I'm trying to expand into literature and language.
Gotcha. Sanjana, how about you?
I also play Kardaman. I started in 7th grade with Miss Moguel. And I used to do language, but I think I do mostly literature now.
So it's language, literature, myth, and what's the other one?
History, of course.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. Well, this has been eye-opening. This wasn't supposed to turn into a Kardaman strategy stream, but I figured we would talk to y'all's strengths, and that's one of y'all's strengths. So now let me see if I've got the picture straight. So now in an average month, you've got one officer meeting, one club meeting with 400 people, 1 to 2 service projects, a non-service project, and 4 Kardaman practices because it's once a week, which is 9 JCL events so far. Plus, is there anything we're missing?
I mean, there's always the Mass JCL events.
Oh yeah, plus Massachusetts JCL, and those are once every couple of months. Is that right? There's like the kickoff at the beginning. Do what?
Yeah, pretty much.
Gotcha. And the biggest one of those is the state convention, which is sometime in the spring, like February or March, right? And how do you mobilize a whole chapter to get excited for state convention?
Yeah, so I think Miss Moguel brought this up before, but usually all of our sponsors advertise states in their classroom, and we also email out the advertisement to our members, and then we hold like a tubalustrium event. It's just named after the holiday that prepares our students for what to expect, like our spirit cheers as well as the schedule. And I think that itself is very helpful, especially for their newer students that haven't attended a stage before. They know what's coming up, and they know what activities they can participate in to help us win the trophy. So at state, it's pretty hectic since we usually have the biggest delegation. So getting everybody to come together for spirit or fellowship can be tough sometimes, but I think our sponsors and board do a great job with that, especially our spirit coordinator.
Gotcha. And y'all have, I should have asked this at the beginning, but if Latin's a required course for 7th through 10th grade and then beyond that, you'll probably have a lot of JCL sponsors, is that right?
We do, yeah. Some more active than others, but yeah.
Like 4, like 20?
We have a
like
handful that are very active and up to 10 that sign up
10.
regularly.
Wow, man. We had about 1.5. And that was...
There are 14 Latin teachers at BLS.
Wow, that's cool. All right. So we're getting close to the end of the hour. So if anybody in the chat has any last questions for these folks, our wonderful guests, please put those in the chat now. If you ask them, what's their secret behind winning Kardaman, I don't think they have to disclose that. But I went into the stream with the idea of, let's talk about how y'all's JCL chapter is so successful. And it sounds like from a 30,000 foot view that what you do is you have lots and lots of events. You have very passionate teachers who help the students get passionate and stay passionate about the club and participating in club activities. You've got lots and lots of activities for people to express that passion and get more excited about JCL, because that is one of the best ways to get people more excited about JCL is to go to a JCL event. Then you've got these this particular focus on Kardaman that has these weekly practices, that has this whole community of students working together, advanced students hanging out with novice students, and everybody's helping each other practice and get good. Everybody's working together. You've got 20 officers up at the top who are really keeping an eye on everybody and making sure nobody gets lost, and the teachers are helping with that too, and that everybody gets to participate. It sounds like a really great model for other schools to try and emulate. So for those of you out there who are looking to join your chapter, looking to grow your chapters rather, it seems like the team effort of, like Emily Lewis just said in the chat, having lots of excited, passionate people. Some of them are going to be officers, some of them are going to be star Kardaman players, some of them are going to be your teachers, and some of them are going to be your Latin 1 students who are new to this whole thing but are excited to try it out. I just said a lot of words. Would the 4 of y'all generally agree with that? And is there anything that I'm missing?
I think you've got it, yeah.
Well,
You summarized it pretty well.
I think y'all are the ones who have got it. I'm just trying to understand it.
Thank you.
It's very impressive what y'all do. Definitely not a surprise that y'all have been so successful in the past, and seems like you're going to project a lot of success forward to the future. We didn't really get to talk about what the COVID year is going to look like, but you mentioned online service events and some in-person service events with adaptations and things like that. Kardaman practice can happen virtually and things like that. If there are any major changes that y'all are planning to make this year, you can, of course, leave a comment on the video once the video's up. I don't want to keep y'all too long past the hour. Doesn't look like a lot of people have questions in the chat. That's all good. Is there anything else y'all wanted to say before we sign off for the evening?
I think the chat wanted me to stand up earlier, so
They sure
I can
did.
do that now. All right, here you go. I've stood up.
All right. That's our show. Thank you so much, Danny, Ethan, Sanjana, and Miss Moguel. Thanks so much for coming on. It's been a real pleasure getting to meet you and talk to you about JCL and the Boston Latin School JCL experience. I'm sure that I'll see you at at the Princeton tournament, certainly this year, and then probably also at National Convention. Until then, keep being awesome. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks to everybody in the chat, and we'll see y'all next week. Cheers, everybody.